Hi, and welcome to another episode of Shine Like a North Star. Hello, I'm Carrie Burchell. I am the proud owner of North Star Coaching, and it's an organization that really helps leaders in dynamic situations slow down to go fast and figure it out. So let's dive into today's tip, which is about shortening the meeting time. Who doesn't want to do some of that? All right. So I was working with a department just this week, and I love sharing these like hot off the press tips with you, things that I'm finding leaders and teams really benefit from. Because let's face it, we don't really have the end all be all of figuring out everything after COVID, right? Things that used to work don't fit the same way. They might be used somewhere else. It's just messy. So my goal is to share hot off the press tips of teams that are figuring it out. You may have heard of consent agendas before. So consent agendas are often really valuable. You might have seen them in board meetings or situations where minutes have to be approved. And so they just sort of will have an agenda line of, minutes from last month, who approves, who doesn't, right? Without going through the minutes from last month, right? So already you can see how that was going to shorten a meeting time. So what we did yesterday in a team is I met with the senior leadership group and talked through some of their prioritization, what was going on, that important work of just slowing down to go fast. And then in the discussion, we organically said, okay, so what of these items, and it was like a page long single space typed, what of these items are just FYI for the broad leadership team? And how can we communicate that with them? Right. So then I introduced this concept of the consent agenda, which was really a way for the senior leadership team to just outline, here's some bulleted points, FYI, and then out of that whole page of single space typed items, made it to the needs to be discussed. And sure enough, when we got into the bigger meeting with everybody, you could see that the whole leadership team was really appreciative of the information. It was way faster than kind of talking through everything. And let's face it, if you had to talk through everything, you'd probably skip some of those things that you didn't think was that important because you just want to get out of there, right? It's like painstakingly slow to talk through 24 different items. I think when I counted, that's how many were on the list. Right. And so just by using the consent agenda and explaining a little bit of, we're not voting on these and we're not being super formalized with it, but we are saying, here's the stuff that's FYI, 24 points, and pausing for the group and saying, any follow-up questions? Or are kind of like cryptic 3 or 4 word bullets needing a little bit more elaboration? As you can guess, there were a couple of lines where people asked for a little bit of elaboration, or they had information that they needed clarity on, or information that they wanted to share with the bigger leadership group. That's exactly how it should happen, right? Where we are discussing the stuff that needs to be discussed and not spending airtime going over FYI things that can just be read, right? So a consent agenda is valuable because it's going to shorten your meeting agenda. It also is valuable because the right people are in the room if there are questions or more information that needs to be asked for everybody to be on the same page with the priorities. You might think that a consent agenda could work in an email. Let me just push all of this 24 bulleted list at everybody. They just need to read it anyway. Well, what you're missing when you do that is this chance for collaboration. And sure, out of 24 points yesterday in this meeting, only 2 people had follow-up questions on, but man, that problem solving that happened in those quick follow-up discussions saved the entire leadership room some time because everybody knew from the left hand to the right hand to the left hand to the right hand what was going on, right? And then of course there were the 3 points of discussion, and so the meeting itself got deeper into the stuff that needed to be discussed. And kind of on my outside helicopter view, it just felt less cantankerous in the room, frankly. People weren't as irritated because they weren't stuck there talking about stuff that they just either didn't need to know or weren't happy with. Like, for example, there was a pipe that was leaking and they couldn't use one of the facilities. I mean, that's a bit of a hassle, but I imagine if you open that up for conversation about the pipe leaking, you'd get a little bit of BMW driving, the bitching, moaning, whining. The BMW driving about what a pain it is to not have access to this one area that they normally use, right? Well, let's just not open up the BMW driving. Keep that garage door shut, right? It's an FYI. Here's the work that's being done on the pipe. Statement of fact. Sure, we could like casually complain about it because it is a pain in the butt, but let's just like say it's happened and move on, right? So the consent agenda can be really valuable because it does shorten down meetings, and it also positions the leadership team overall to sort of get out of that I'm irritated by these petty things that I don't have any control over, right? Or even the cascade of information coming down, it helps them sort of plan further out. So consent agenda, valuable because it's going to shorten meetings. It's going to just not create that opening for kind of the BMW driving. And it's also going to put the right people in the room to discuss things further if it needs to be discussed. Yeah, I would love to know about what you're thinking of with consent agendas. Try them out with your team. See how you can leverage that. I've worked with other teams where they've had like an ongoing Google Doc or some sort of shared platform where everybody on the team can just drop in FYI stuff. It doesn't have to be the leader that owns that. And so, if there's something going on and the left hand needs the right hand to know and it's not a big discussion thing, great. Or, of course, if it's a discussion thing, put it on the discussion point, right? So, try it out. I'd love to hear how it works for you. You can check out more of me at carrieburchell.com. And, of course, I want to help you shine like a North Star. We're not always perfect every day. The North Star is not always bright the same every time. But, man, we are bright. Leaders, you have this. You keep showing up. Let's rock it. Contact me. Let's see how I can help you do your work.